Okay, we gotta talk about how Tony never ducked a fade, whether it be a superhuman or a god-level character. In today's video, we finna be looking at cases where Tony still wasn't backing down from a fade. Case 1 is Iron Man versus Thor. So the scene starts off with Thor telling Loki to listen. Then Iron Man comes in and yanks Thor away and throws him on the ground. Thor tells Tony not to put his filthy hands on him again, and Tony tells him to keep his hands to himself and don't take his shit. Thor tells Tony he doesn't know who Loki is and that it's beyond him. Tony tells Thor if Loki gives up the cube, he can have him back. So Tony turns around, and Thor didn't like that and throws his hammer at Tony. Tony gets pissed off, shoots Thor, and flies toward him, then stomps on his chest to hit him. Thor didn't like that and summons lightning and strikes Tony. But we all know my goat learns from his mistakes, and that just powers his suit up more. And once again, he shoots Thor. Thor lands, and both of them fly toward each other. Tony starts riding Thor. Pause. Tony basically drags Thor up the mountain, and Thor didn't like that. So he jumps back, dragging Tony to the ground. Thor throws a punch, then Tony tries to do the same, but gets blocked. Then he tries to use his other hand to throw a punch, but that also gets blocked, and Thor starts crushing his armor. Tony proceeds to blast Thor and headbutts him. Thor tanks it and headbutts Tony back, got my goat stumbling. Tony stops himself, flies toward Thor, grabs him, and throws him. Thor hits a tree, but recovers immediately and runs toward Tony. Tony tries to uppercut him, but Thor dodges and hits Tony, making him kneel, then hits his back and grabs him and slams him into the ground, trying to murder my goat. Tony flies out of there, making Thor fall face flat. Tony turns around and hits him clean. Both try to get ready, but Cap stops them. Case 2 is my goat versus an angry broccoli. Okay, I'm joking, please don't attack me, Hulk fans, and bomb my house. So the scene starts off with Hulk going crazy in the city, like a bear with rabies, and Iron Man comes in. And this is the first time we see the Hulkbuster, by the way. Hulk sees the Hulkbuster and crashes out like me every time I play Brawlhalla. Tony tells Hulk he's stronger and smarter than this mind control and tells him he's Bruce Banner. Hulk didn't like being compared to Bruce. To him, that's basically comparing a coughing baby to a hydrogen bomb. Hulk grabs a car and throws it toward Tony. Tony stops it, and Hulk shoulder checks Tony. Tony stumbles but recovers and flies toward Hulk, grabs him, and drags him on the road. That shit gotta hurt. Hulk then kicks him. Tony recovers, and Hulk, like a mad dog, runs toward my goat. Tony stops him and blasts him away, making him crash into a truck. I don't know how that truck driver is gonna explain to the company how a green giant and a giant robot were fighting in the city, and then the green dude crashed into the truck. Tony lands looking for Hulk, but Hulk sneaks him and hits him, making Tony hit a building and recover. But Hulk comes down and stabs him in the back and starts rampaging Tony's suit. Tony rocks him and tells him to get the fuck off his back. Tony tells GPT to give him some spare parts. Hulk recovers and once again runs toward Tony. Tony stalls time by blasting him. Finally, Tony's arm is ready and both clash with each other. Hulk tries to jump toward Tony but gets flipped and starts getting his brain jiggled. I know that's gotta cause some severe headaches. But Hulk gets tired of that, grabs Tony's fist, but Tony locks his hand in and flies away from the city. Hulk didn't want that, so he redirects them into a building. Both crash, and Hulk again jumps at Tony, but Tony grabs him and pins him to the wall, trying to put him to sleep. And that's when the elevator opens. Bro, that shit gotta be scary from those civilians' POV. Imagine seeing two giant dudes fighting. But Hulk gets tired of getting pinned by one hand and kicks Tony off, making him hit the elevator. Tony recovers and saves the people in the elevator and tells them to get off. Hulk tries to attack him while he's distracted, but Tony kicks him and then hits him with the elevator. Hulk, still disoriented, tries to get up, but once again Tony hits him clean, making Hulk lose a tooth. Bro, this is why Tony is my favorite. There's no human who can do that. But Hulk gets mad, hits back, and starts bombarding him with his fists. Tony throws him inside the building, but Hulk jumps out and gets on the back of the suit. Tony tries to call for support, but Hulk hits that shit away. Tony flips and grabs Hulk by the leg, then sees a building being made and immediately buys it, flexing his money. Then he drops Hulk, then flies toward him, crashing Hulk through the building. After that, Hulk comes out and starts gaining his sanity but gets rocked. Okay, Case 3 is against my goat versus 2 steroid users. So the scene starts off with Tony discovering that Bucky killed his parents and Cap over there looking all jolly, but doesn't know my goat is getting heated. So he gets smacked. Bucky immediately ups on Tony, but Tony disarms him real quick. Bucky tries to swing on Tony, but gets blocked. Then he hits Tony's hands off. But Tony grabs him by the throat, flies him, then slams him on the ground and puts his foot on Bucky's hand. But Cap hits him, making Tony miss his shot at Bucky's head. Cap hits Tony with his shield, but Tony immediately recovers and shoulder checks him and cuffs him up. Then Bucky uppercuts him, but Tony grabs him and flies toward the wall and tries to blast Bucky in the face. But Bucky grabs his hand and starts crushing it. Tony gets out and tries to point blank him with a rocket, but Bucky redirects it, making an explosion, and Cap escapes his cuffs. The falling debris causes Tony to lose his grip on Bucky and get stuck on some debris, but he escapes and sees Bucky trying to run and blasts him but miss. But then Cap intervenes. Tony tells him to move and tries to fly but gets grabbed and gets one of his boosters damaged. Cap tries to get another hit on Tony, but Tony just uses his laser to make debris fall on Cap. He sees Bucky still on the run and kicks him. He tries to blast him again, but Captain Atlanta saves him and makes Tony hit himself with his blast. Tony recovers and tries to fly toward Bucky, but Cap once again prevents Tony from doing that and drags them both down. Tony tries to blast Bucky, but Cap throws his shield. Tony blasts that away. He tries to shoot at Bucky, but his aimbot isn't working, so he does it raw. The explosion causes Bucky to fall. Tony tries to fly toward Bucky, but gets hit. Bucky tries to get seconds, but Tony stops him and chokes Bucky. Pause. And Tony asks if Bucky even remembers them. Bucky denies it, so Tony tries to fly down, but gets tackled by Captain Atlanta, making all of them free fall. Cap tells Tony that if he does kill Bucky, it's not going to change shit, which I understand. But if everyone was in the same shoes as Tony, we all wouldn't care. And that's also Tony's response. He flies toward Cap and hits his shit. Cap also hits Tony's shit, and then Tony hits him back. Cap tries to choke Tony. Pause. I don't know why Cap always does this. Tony escapes and starts rocking Cap's shit. I know that shit caused a dent in his skull, but Bucky saves Cap and throws Cap back his shield. Even though Tony is my GOAT and I'm his #1 fan, the choreography of Cap and Bucky was absolute cinema. Tony gets tired of getting jumped and blasts Cap away. Once again, Bucky tries to get seconds, but gets hit with a two-piece. Then they trade some punches. Tony tries to blast Bucky, but once again he redirects it and hits Tony in the chest, then tries to rip Tony's arc reactor. But that's a no, and he gets his arm stolen and then blasted away. I was so happy when he got his arm snatched by Tony. Then we see that cool-ass panel of Tony and Cap, and then we see my GOAT Tony get pummeled by Cap. Tony, tired of his brain getting juggled, tells GPT to analyze this guy's fighting pattern. And that's when Tony starts putting belt to ass on Cap. He grabs Cap's shield and blasts that shit away. Cap tries to sneak an attack, but gets blocked and blasted away. Tony flies toward Cap, gets a body shot on him, then hits him with an elbow, then an uppercut, then blasts him in the nuts. I know that shit gotta hurt. Cap tells Tony Bucky is his friend, and Tony tells him he was also his friend, then gives him a two-piece and grabs him and throws him away, telling him to stay the fuck down. Cap says never back down, never give up. Tony gets tired of Cap's BS and aims at him, but Bucky stops him and gets his skull crushed, which gives Cap enough time to pick up Tony and slam him. Cap starts hitting Tony. I don't know how Tony didn't just blast him away when he was on top of him, but due to plot my GOAT had to lose. Anyways, that's it of my GOAT never ducking a fade. You might also be wondering why I didn't put the Iron Man vs. Thanos fight in, and that's because I already did a video on it. You can watch that. Anyways, that's it. I'm leaving. Be safe and have a good day.